good, everybody? This is Loading P, and I am back playing NBA 2K15, and I am trying something new. I am going to simulate a whole season with a what-if scenario. Over the years, there has been many what-ifs scenarios in the NBA and all across the world of sports. One of the biggest what-if scenarios that came up in the NBA recently, and there's probably a lot of other ones, but one of the biggest ones that stood out to me is what if Chris Paul went to the Lakers if that trade for Chris Paul did not get vetoed. Now, I went and did a lot of research online and stuff and kind of wanted to see what other people were saying about Chris Paul and, you know, kind of what would have happened to the NBA, what would have been the impact if he did become a Laker. So if you guys didn't know, the original proposed trade was the Lakers would get Chris Paul right here. The Houston Rockets, being the third team in the trade, would get Pau Gasol. The Pelicans would get Goran Dragic, Luis Scola, Kevin Martin, and just for shits and giggles, I threw in Lamar Odom. And then they got a 2012 unprotected first-round pick, which that came from the New York Knicks, and I believe, I can't remember, I think, let me go check. I looked to see who it ended up being, who that pick ended up becoming, and I had all my notes with me. Not too sure who it ended up being. I forgot. It wasn't even the Lakers picks. I'm pretty sure it was somebody else. But yeah, that is what the team kind of would have looked like. So the Pelicans, it would have been way different. You could see that Anthony Davis is not on the team. Anthony Davis, they would not have gotten the first pick more than likely. So Anthony Davis would have went somewhere else. With that being said, that year the three worst teams were the Wizards, Cavaliers, and Kings. And since I have a Sacramento Kings bias, and since this is a dream come true for a lot of NBA people and NBA fans out there, I threw Anthony Davis on the team along with DeMarcus Cousins, two Kentucky big men stars that would be playing together. So I will get back to that real quick. If you guys have any questions on how the dynamic of that team, as you can see, Rudy Gay is not on the team anymore. We will go back to the Lakers. A lot of the roster had changes. There's a lot of changes in this roster that I had to make. It's not perfect. It's just like a generalization, but the LA team, I tried to make it spot on of what it would be with what I had. So what we have Chris Paul right here. I think that Dwight Howard would have followed because that was kind of the plan, because they would have freed up enough money by trading Pau Gasol, and they would have had money to get Dwight Howard and re-sign him. Kobe Bryant, of course, I don't know if he would have been hurt and got all those injuries and if he would have degenerated all the way down to an 85 rating, but we're just going to leave it at that. With JJ Redick, I was not going to leave him on the Clippers because I do not feel that, I don't feel like he left Orlando, he was there, boom, then Orlando, all that probably still would have happened, but I don't think he would have went to the Clippers, so I just made it to where he would have followed Chris Paul to the Lakers instead of the Clippers. Jordan Hill, I probably could have put him somewhere else. He was in Houston. He probably could have stayed in Houston, but at the same time, you never know. Just a guess. Nick Young, Swaggy P, he was with Washington and then the Clippers when all this happened, then went to Philly, but Nick Young went to USC. So I believe that he eventually wanted to play with the Lakers, and I feel like it still would have happened. Now, Thaddeus Young, this is a more bold move on the roster that I made. I was reading an article, and I will hopefully I remember to put down a link so that you guys can see what articles I was going off of. FYI, I would have had Ron Artest or Meta World Peace in here if he was available, but he is not. I think they would have had enough money to go capture a Thaddeus Young. In the article, it says either Thaddeus Young or Carl Landry. I left Carl Landry with the Kings because I believe that he would have stayed, or he would have eventually traveled and naturally traveled over to the Kings. But you never know. This is an alternate universe anyways. So we put Thaddeus Young on here because the Lakers probably would have picked up someone of that nature. Also, I have Josh Smith on the roster. He just didn't really fit in anywhere. At that time, he just was not wanted in Atlanta. I mean, his shooting just got worse. He didn't play that well. Atlanta was just sick and tired of him. I don't think he would have went to Detroit, or maybe he would have. Either way, he would have made his way to the free agency, and he followed Dwight Howard or whoever to the Rockets, so why not to the Lakers? Now, Matt Barnes, he was with the Lakers doing the 2010, 2011, and 2011, 2012. I don't think he would have left if he had these three guys. I think he would have stayed with the Lakers, and him and Meta World Peace, Ron Artest, would have been their defensive stoppers. Wayne Ellington, I'm just leaving on there. Jordan Clarkson, he was a second-round pick. Very possible that the Lakers still could have picked him up. Josh McRoberts, I believe, would have stayed on the team. In the article that I was going off of, it says, quote, Josh McRoberts remains on the Lakers and develops into a key role player for them. I don't know. It sounds good, so I believe that it would have happened because you can see right here, he did have decent minutes per game. So maybe Josh McRoberts has a lot of potential. With those other star players on the team, it could have went a whole different way. Now with Andrew Bynum, not sure if he would have stayed with Dwight. Not sure. The type of points and stuff he was putting up in this year, it depends. It's weird. Maybe he would have stayed. I just threw him on there because he was in the free agencies, just for shits and giggles. Ryan Kelly, second round pick. Robert Sacre, second round pick. They're just roster fillers. It's really hard to predict what would have happened, but this is the roster that I am rolling with. So if you guys have any comments about the Lakers roster, go ahead, let me know down in the comments. Try and, be nice, man. This is my first time trying this. Definitely, if you have any input, tell me. Let me know in the comments. I want to know. Let's make this conversation. What do you think would have happened? All right, so now let's go to the other team directly affected by this trade. So we have Goran Dragic, Kevin Martin. I believe that Trevor Ariza, he was with them. Now you have to remember it was the trade with the Hornets, but who then turned into the Pelicans. Now they're back to the Charlotte Hornets, but it was with the Pelicans franchise. So I believe that Trevor Ariza would not have left, and he would have stayed with Washington because there is no other. Well, there's these two guys, but they won't be able to compete with him, and they probably would have ended up giving him more money. With the Pelicans still not doing good, they did not get Anthony Davis, but I think they still could have had a chance to get Nerlens Noel and not traded him for Drew Holiday. Probably would have kept him, and then they had another pick when they picked Nerlens Noel, or who was it? It was Anthony Davis, and then, yeah. I think it was Anthony Davis, and they got Austin Rivers. So with that basically what I'm saying is that second pick would have probably been Tyler Zeller. In the article, it says Tyler Zeller or Jared Sullinger. I left Jared Sullinger on the Celtics for a good reason that you guys will see. And yeah, this pick was from the New York Knicks, so that would have been who was Austin Rivers, which is Tyler Zeller. So I think there is one. Oh, here's another player right here. So since they did not get Anthony Davis with that first pick, they did pick up Dion Waiters. They could have ended up with Damian Lillard, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Dion Waiters, or Thomas Robinson. Well, since the only players that aren't really on a team that aren't drafted by the team, I kind of wanted to balance out the teams for this. I went with Dion Waiters because he is on the Thunder now. He is not with the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe that everything that happened with Cleveland would have happened and stayed in place with LeBron going and Kevin Love. Feel like all of that would have stayed. So, Dion Waiters now on the Pelicans. Greaves Vasquez, of course, back on the Pelicans because you will see there was another trade that did not happen just because of the Chris Paul trade. It's crazy. Once I got into this was a whole project making this roster, and you see how many things probably wouldn't have happened had Chris Paul went to the Lakers. So we will go to the Rockets, the third and final team affected by this trade. They get Pau Gasol. I believe they keep Chandler Parsons. He doesn't go anywhere. He becomes one of the staples. Patrick Beverley, he is a second-round pick, but turned out good, so I think he still will be there. Terrence Jones stays the same. He was number 18. I believe they probably would have picked him up. Courtney Lee, of course, stays there. He has a starting position. And Patrick Patterson staying there, not leaving either. Dante Montejunas, they still go with him out of Lithuania. Jeremy Lamb doesn't leave. You will see. The Rockets are missing somebody. There's another trade that did not happen just because of this. So they pick up Chris Humphries just, to have some more support. Let me go and read you what the reason behind this was. So the Rockets round their roster out with a solid but unspectacular talent through free agency, probably bringing someone in like Chris Humphries or Brandon Bass to replace Luis Scola. So I bring in Chris Humphries. Bring in Chris Humphries, and that kind of soaks up the presence, even though Pau Gasol is going to do that anyways. So they have a lot of young talent and stuff. Pablo Prigioni, I probably could have put back on the Knicks, but he'll stay there. All these are still all the rookies that they got. Try to leave them in there because I feel like naturally it would have happened anyways. So let's see one of the other teams that were affected by this. Let's go to the Los Angeles Clippers. Another team directly affected. The team that Chris Paul did not go to. You see a lot of 70s in there. All right, so they still have Blake Griffin. He was picked in 2009. Didn't affect that. DeAndre Jordan, too. I don't know if he would still be this good without Chris Paul, but who knows. Eric Bledsoe ends up staying there and becoming the top point guard for the Clippers. Eric Gordon also stays there, along with they pick up Aaron Aflalo as another person because they lost a lot of people without that trade happening. Chris Kaman staying there, Clipper for life. Nate Robinson just there because he would have ended up somewhere, and it would be really hard to predict where that man ends up because he is a journeyman. I believe that they would have picked up Marcus Smart because they would have fell in the draft without enough experience. They would have got trampled by a lot of teams. Big baby Glenn Davis, probably could have put him back on Boston. He might have stayed with Boston the way that I set the roster up, but I did not get to that. Hedo Turkoglu just in there for a filler. Who knows where he'll be. Jordan Hamilton was with Denver, Houston, and then now the Clippers. I believe they signed him this year. He's not even really an impact player. Now with Austin Rivers, I think the Clippers would have picked him up because they had a pick, the 10th overall pick from the Timberwolves, and I think he would have fell in that same spot and ended up being with the Clippers anyway. So he is a backup point guard still. So that still makes sense. And all these other guys, they're just fill-ins. Honestly, it would be too hard just to figure out how the roster really would be. All right, so another team affected by this trade. We have Marc Gasol. Well, we have the main Memphis Grizzlies clue along with Rudy Gay. I think that Rudy Gay does not get traded. He's going to stay. There's no reason for him to go to Toronto, and definitely no reason for him to go to Sacramento anymore. So I believe he stays. Kyle Lowry's still over there. Everybody still on the Toronto Raptors. They're still pretty much intact, but I believe that Rudy Gay is going to stay because there's no reason for him to be on Sacramento. I think they work things out. Probably that contract would go down a little bit, but Grizzlies still dangerous. So Atlanta Hawks not touched at all. The Miami Heat still go through, win their championships with LeBron and all of that jazz. Still staying pretty much the same. I could put Zoran Dragic on the Pelicans because he likes to follow his brother. I didn't really get to that though. Hornets pretty much going to stay the same too. Don't know of anyone that would have been affected by that trade. Now to the Jazz, no one. I didn't really touch anyone on here either. Didn't really affect them. Now to the Sacramento Kings. Anthony Davis on the team because the Pelicans would not have gotten that first pick. So just being my bias, he came to Sacramento along with DeMarcus Cousins. So with that being said, they are definitely a better team with that. Isaiah Thomas doesn't go anywhere. He stays, ends up being the starting point guard, which is definitely not the best thing, but it happens. Also, I say that Tyreke Evans stays at the same time. He re-signs for a smaller price because the Kings now have a winning culture with Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins at the helm. Andre Miller eventually comes in because they still need to find a coach, and it still ends up being George Karl. And Andre Miller and George Karl definitely have a great relationship, and Andre Miller has connections and ties to Sacramento. Carl Landry comes to Sacramento and stays in Sacramento and not to LA because he gets the money. Sacramento pays him the money because they need other power forwards to back up Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins when they are tired. So they have Reggie Evans. He's just there as a filler. Army Caspi, even though he did leave Sacramento, then went to Cleveland, but he always had a strong spot for Sacramento, so he ended up staying. Now, you'll see Kings have Tony Snell. That is because Ben McLemore is now on the... Ooh, I just showed you guys something. He is now on the Chicago Bulls. That is very disrespectful that they have him as number 23, Ben McLemore, to the Chicago Bulls, because we'll still say that Derrick Rose gets hurt. So they get a better draft pick and they pick up Ben McLemore. They just go in total tank mode and pick up Ben McLemore in the draft, and that's definitely going to be a better spot for them. Going back to the Kings, they get Gary Harris instead of Stauskas because they pick lower in the draft because they have been winning. And Jimmer Fredette stays on the team, always a fan favorite. Kings were very adamant about picking him up in the draft. So there you go with the Sacramento Kings. Ooh, just showed you another one. This roster is definitely interesting. Real interesting, nice to look at. So here is something huge. I think that Carmelo Anthony does go to the Bulls after Derrick Rose comes up because there's a lot of teams obviously powering up and getting their superstar big threes. So you would have Carmelo Anthony, Derrick Rose, and Joakim Noah. But the play of Jimmy Butler has obviously put him at the top of the roster. So that is definitely a team to look out for. They have a lot, just pretty much the same players. They're going to be one of the top teams in the East. They have to be. So, with that being said, what happened to the Knicks? The Knicks were absolutely dismantled. So now you go to the New York Knicks, and they just hit the jackpot. They stock up on picks and whatnot, and coming to the Big Apple, you have Mr. Andrew Wiggins along with Marco Carter-Williams, a Syracuse native. How they got Marco Carter-Williams, not too sure yet if it was in the draft or if they traded for him just because he is a Syracuse native. Believe that Jeremy Lin does stay there and ends up not going to the Rockets because they don't really have a reason to. Then in the same draft, they move up and pick up Julius Randle. So they have a plethora of young talent in New York coming up. So you never know. Eventually, New York might be good in this alternate universe. Now moving on to the Boston Celtics. Jared Solinger, best player on the team in 2014-2015. I believe that everybody stays. Why would they leave? Just stay. All of them stay. Ray Allen stays. All of that. They all stay. Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen, Rajon Rondo, Paul Pierce, all of them stay. All right? And it's just that. I'm sure Boston Celtic fans are happy about that. I'm pretty sure all those guys would stay. Same with Jeff Green. He stays over there too. Just that's the way it's going to be. I don't really have an explanation for it. It just looked good when I was doing it. Cleveland Cavaliers, same exact roster. They still got that same trade from the Knicks because the Knicks were just trying to get rid of talent and move players. J.R. Smith and Shumpert eventually find LeBron James and that good team. Anybody else? Oh, so right here, not too interesting, but 76ers keep Drew Holiday along with Joel. They pick up Joel Embiid still in the draft because they still do not have a pleasing roster. Keep Evan Turner, Spencer Hawes, a few other people. End up still getting Thomas Robinson just because he bounces around. It's just a natural selection type of thing. I think he would have went there anyways. Milwaukee Bucks, still pretty much their fate is the same. Don't see that changing. Let me see where else I made changes. Hawks, stay the same. Heat. And pretty sure Magic stay the same. The Mavericks, obviously, they don't have Rondo or Chandler Parsons. They do pick up Darren Williams. They want a point guard, and they were in strong pursuit for a point guard, and I believe that they would have gotten Darren Williams. And then Amari Stoudemire just naturally went over there because New York unloaded all of their players. Feel like Vince Carter would stay. Why would you leave? Along with Jason Terry. Why are you going to leave something good? Raymond Felton's still there too. So Mavericks definitely have a good roster. The Nets, not necessarily a mess, but you know, they have some old faces. A lot of people just stayed, and they're kind of just the middle of the pack. Never made those big moves into Brooklyn, just kind of stayed the same, and they're trying to play for a lottery pick. Nuggets, no big moves at all. They keep Corey Brewer. Anything else? Nothing really. The Pacers have Paul George, keep Darren Collison. Don't know why they get rid of him. At that point, there was no reason to. So they have George Hill too and Darren Collison, which they needed a true point guard, which Darren Collison's pretty good at. Pistons pretty much stayed the same. Can't see anything else that would really change with them. They're not really affected by it. Going to stay pretty much the same team. Toronto Raptors, everybody but a few, bench players and stuff. Keep Ed Davis. Everybody else, pretty much, they're really just the same. Rockets, already showed you them. Spurs going to stay exactly the same. No moves. Spurs, I believe they would have made all the same moves. Phoenix Suns probably could have used a lot of changes. I did see there were some rumors, or there were some articles saying that maybe the James Harden deal would have been to Phoenix instead of the to Phoenix instead of the Rockets. But you'll see what I did with that. And they said that maybe James Harden and Dwight Howard would have teamed up with the Suns instead. But we'll just leave them alone on how they are because they're all right. OKC with a absolutely stacked team. What would have happened if James Harden stayed? Something like this. It would have been pretty good. Front five. And then everybody else, trash. Nobody good. Who are they going to put in the bench? They don't. They just use their amazing starting five. So James Harden taking less money and staying with the team. I thought that was very interesting. Timberwolves getting Ricky Rubio, but never really have anything else. I believe Anthony Bennett's still going to stay. I don't even know what the Cavs gave up for Kevin Love, or what the Cavs got for Kevin Love, or yeah, what they gave up. What they gave up. Nothing really. It just starts not to make sense throughout here, but you never know what would have happened. I still have a strong feeling that Kevin Love would have went to the Cavs or to somewhere else. I don't think the Lakers, because obviously they're stacked. The Portland Trailblazers still get lucky and pick Damian Lillard. I feel like Jamal Crawford would have stayed with them and not followed and went to the Clippers. So there you go. There's their roster. Just a minor change. They have Jamal Crawford now. The Golden State Warriors. Pretty much all the same. I wanted to put Iggy on the Kings because Pete D'Alessandro, the Kings GM, did bring him to the Nuggets when he was there, but I didn't want to let my bias play in too much, so I left him with the Warriors. And also another little surprising sign, Ryan Anderson did not want to play in Sacramento. He is a Northern California native, so I went ahead and just threw him on the Warriors because I feel like he probably wouldn't be playing with the Pelicans at this point since they will not be that good. Washington Wizards, not changing too much. Still have some old faces like Andre Blatch and JaVale McGee and Jordan Crawford, so they're decent and all right. Now, that is pretty much it with the roster. I'm going to go ahead and simulate through the whole season. Yes, simulate through the whole season, and I will go over everything. This will be the ultimate what if Chris Paul had went to LA. How would the NBA turn out today? All right, so the NBA's most valuable player as the whole season, pretty much in real life right now, is going, it would be Stephen Curry. So he had 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists. Just some beastly numbers by Stephen Curry. Now to the Rookie of the Year. Pretty much how it's going to go, I'm thinking, is going to be to Andrew Wiggins, but this time Andrew Wiggins on the Knicks and the Big Apple. Sixth Man of the Year, Reggie Jackson. Not too sure who it's going to go to this year. I think that's just a 2K thing. They might have just put him on the bench. I'm not sure if Reggie Jackson's starting or what. Defensive Player of the Year, Anthony Davis. That may happen. Not sure. Not too sure on who's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year, but Anthony Davis sounds like a good contestant for that. Most Improved, Klay Thompson. Very, very possible, as in corresponding with the real life season. Man is crazy. He had 23 points, averaged 23 points, 40 rebounds, 5 assists. Very possible. Coach of the Year, 64-18. The Chicago Bulls. All right, 93 overall, 64-18. Man, oh man, nice. So the all NBA first team, you have Steph Curry, James Harden, LeBron James, and Andre Drummond. Wow, for the best center NBA first team, Andre Drummond. Okay. So NBA second team, you have Marc Gasol, Gordon Hayward, Paul George. He did play in this season. Very interesting. Dwayne Wade still playing at a high clip, and then you have Russell Westbrook right behind him. So for the third team, you have John Wall, Brandon Knight, LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay having a way better season with the Grizzlies, and Al Horford. All right, so the defensive team, you got DeAndre Jordan, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, and Patrick Beverly. Sounds about right. Then you have Eric Bledsoe, Tony Allen, Paul George, Tim Duncan, and Tyson Chandler. And then the rookie team, you have Julius Randle, Jabari Parker, Joel Embiid, Shabazz Napier, and Andrew Wiggins. Very interesting. Second team, Elfrid Payton, KJ McDaniels, Bojan Bogdanovic, Nikola Mirotic, and Nerlens Noel, of course, playing for the Pelicans. Very interesting right there. Wow, the Lakers had a 37-45. Obviously, it's real rough. Let's go ahead and look at some of these We'll look at, oh no, not division. So, is there a, okay, yeah, we will look at the conferences right here. So OKC, as you might have expected, very big lead, 63-19, huge advantage. He's over 7 games with the Trailblazers in second. Then you have the Golden State Warriors third, Grizzlies fourth, Spurs fifth, Mavericks sixth, Kings making it to the playoffs with those 2 big men. Told you. And then you have Houston Rockets and then the Clippers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Houston Rockets with that last spot. And then Lakers, Clippers right behind them. But the Rockets barely get in. And here is the rest of the conference. Now going over to the Eastern Conference, Chicago Bulls and Cleveland Cavaliers, Indiana Pacers. This Eastern Conference right here, way better than the Eastern Conference of today with all of those trades. Chicago Bulls definitely with a crazy team with Carmelo Anthony on it. Cleveland Cavaliers, same. Pacers having Paul George. Raptors still where they're at. Miami Heat scratching by with a scrappy team. Charlotte Hornets actually make it in. Very interesting. Atlanta Hawks, not very, not really playing by their real life counterparts. They should be way up here, but with the Chicago Bulls and other teams doing better, maybe they can't keep up. Let me see. Are the Celtics in? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Boston Celtics get that 8th spot with their original big 3 barely scratching in. So very interesting. Anybody else? Brooklyn Nets with the worst team. I kind of figured that because they didn't have much. I feel like they wouldn't have made that many moves without that Chris Paul trade. It's crazy how much that affected it. But of course, this is just a simulation in my interpretation of that whole situation. So, let's go ahead and we'll look at league leaders. You kind of already know. A lot of the players right here. Very interesting to look at all of these things. Go at by positions. So top 3 point guards, we got Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook. You got Klay Thompson, James Harden, and Dwayne Wade. James Harden. Yeah, Dwayne Wade's still playing at a very high clip. Thought he was done. Where's Kobe? Kobe Bryant. Winding down in his career. Very, very sad. Sad for Kobe Bryant right there. It's heartbreaking to see. Not sure what's going on here. He was very upset, I guess. Very upset. Must have been. It says that this thing was down. I'm trying to see anything else. But, of course, Kobe's getting up there in age, 36. Hopefully the other dudes could have, where's Chris Paul? And they just must not have meshed very well. I'll go ahead and look at their stats here in a minute. Chris Paul almost averaged a double-double. We'll go ahead and we'll go look at the centers real quick. I do not see Dwight Howard 13 and 9. Not good numbers at all. Not good numbers by Dwight. Maybe when that trade would have first happened, it might have been nice because they were more in their primes with their career. But now here in 2015, after a few years, you never know. You don't know. So, best power forward, Dirk Nowitzki, obviously, he boosted his play. Probably helps out to have Darren Williams. Anthony Davis right here with 20 points. We can see what DeMarcus Cousins is, not too far behind. DeMarcus Cousins is a machine, and both of those players playing at an elite level really helps out. All right, so that is just all of that. That was the regular season right there. Now we will get into the playoffs. So you kind of see the seeds right there. The first matchup is going to be the Thunder versus the Rockets. And you got the Grizzlies and Spurs, Warriors and Mavs, and Kings and Trailblazers. You got the Bulls, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, Raptors, Hornets, and Cavs, Hawks. All right, man. Now to see who will win the championship. All right, the San Antonio Spurs coming out and winning the 2015 championship, even with the Chris Paul trade and all of that. Very amazing. Very interesting to see how that kind of played out. The San Antonio Spurs, always the sleeper team. You could never, ever sleep on them. Very, very interesting. Let's look at some of these. Thunder swept the Rockets in 4. Then the Spurs win 4-2 against the Thunder. Spurs win 4-1 against the Grizzlies. We'll go by that. So Mavs 4-3 over the Warriors, and Kings actually go 4-2 over the Blazers. But then the Mavs get the Kings 4-3 as the Thunder get the Spurs 4-2. Then the Spurs get the Mavericks 4-1. Advancing to the championship. Now we go over here. Bulls swept the first round. Pacers sweep the Heat. 4-3 Raptors over Hornets. And then you got 4-1 Cavs over Hawks. Then now you move on to the second round. 4-1 Cavs over Raptors. Then you got 4-3 Bulls over Pacers. You got 4-1 Bulls over Cavs. Very interesting right there. I wish it just gave like a whole series kind of stats, but whatever. And you get to the championship in 7. The Spurs, the 5th seed, get the win over the Chicago Bulls. Very, very interesting season. So, Tim Duncan with the Finals MVP. All right. Not very surprising that the Spurs made it and won and Tim Duncan gets it, So these are the players who are retiring. Of course, Kevin Garnett, the big 3, they retire now, which might happen this year. All 3 of these guys might end. You got Vince Carter, Andre Miller with the Kings, Sean Marion from the Cavs, Chris Anderson from the Heat, Pablo Prigioni from the Rockets. Then we're going to advance right there. Hall of Fame inductees. I'm sure you guys figured that already. So, that is it for the what if situation. Lakers in 2015. Now remember, this trade was from a long time ago, but in 2015, you don't know how that would have turned out. They may have done good the few other years, but in 2015 they couldn't make it, and maybe it would not have worked out by now. The Spurs running away with the championship, even though there was a lot of overpowered teams. If you guys have any other what if situations that you would like to see played out, go ahead, explain it to me, or link an article in the comments, or send it to me at my Twitter, LILNICB, LilNickB. Send it to me. Leave comments. Let's make this video a discussion. Talk about it. Tell me how you feel about it. I just did it, and I just wanted to see what would happen, and I felt like it would be a pretty cool video, man. Otherwise, make sure to follow me on Twitter at LILNICB, and as always, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to leave a like for sure if you liked this video, because then I will do more like these. But this is LilNickB signing out.